and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Well, you know what? 5.5 years ago when I created this program, it was meant to cover arts, entertainment, and culture on the shoreline of the state of Connecticut, throughout the state of Connecticut, and even into New York. So I really hope you've enjoyed the programs. But can you imagine my surprise when I recently received a press release that indeed in the city of Hartford, there's a office of arts, culture, and entertainment. And I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. They seem to have the same kind of thought that I have, and I wanted to bring them to you in this interview today. So I have Tanisha Duggan, who is the Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment, as my guest today. And Tanisha, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate your work for 5 years, spreading the word of arts and culture in our region.
Yes, thank you so much. Hopefully you're doing PBS work. Well, I hope that I'm doing PBS work. I can't really speak for you, but that's the aim of this program. So thank you for appreciating it. I know that the viewers really are excited about it, so thank you.
Of course, my pleasure.
Why don't what I like to do in the beginning of the show is introduce the guests to the viewers. So if you mind taking us back into your background, let us get to know you.
Sure. So while I wasn't born in Connecticut, I'm a Virginia girl by birth. I was mostly raised here in Connecticut. Grew up in Middletown, so the Connecticut Valley is my heart. And went to high school at the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts. And so my love for the Greater Hartford region, for the capital city as a magnet to folks who are interested in building something bigger for themselves, really was the seed to my love for the city of Hartford. I was an actor at the Academy, and I went on to be an acting student at SUNY Purchase College in the Conservatory of Theater Arts and Film. I worked because I say to people there was no Obamacare at the time, and so I made some practical choices along the way and did some marketing for Mattel, for the company American Girl, and then found my longing for the arts and for theater to be unwavering. And so I took my marketing skills and I worked for Heartbeat Ensemble, a social justice theater based in Hartford that had some artists in it that were from the Academy, and some of my mentors were founding members of that company. And so I grew my theater career from there. Did audience engagement and marketing for Heartbeat, then moved to TheaterWorks, where I ended my time there as artistic producer. Took a bit of a break, and while I was at TheaterWorks before I left, really transformed the work in terms of doing stuff digitally because we were in the middle of a pandemic. Produced the first in-public performance in Connecticut after the pandemic, Walden, which we did on the banks of the Connecticut River with my friends at Riverfront Recapture in their new location. They had just, opened it, had not made any development choices, and we were able to build this beautiful tiny house and tell Amy Berryman's beautiful story that ended up being at Second Stage last season. Took a big break from TheaterWorks, but not very long, because I ended up at Octopus Theatricals, which is run by the indomitable Mara Isaacs, who, for those of you who are really theater nerds, will know Mara as one of the most iconic female producers. She is the woman behind Hadestown. She helped develop it and got it to Broadway. And I worked under her for a couple of years, doing a lot of their off-Broadway work. So stuff that amazing artists like Dennis O'Hare and Lisa Peterson produced, but they weren't producing it for Broadway per se. I also started working with my friends Annie Kaufman and Janine Tesuri on a project called Cast Album Project, where we take little known musicals, often forgotten musicals, and we give them what we call cast albums, but really recordings of their work, because without the recording, it's really hard for musicals to be found, to be produced, for them to be programmed in academic situations, let alone larger stages. And so I continue to do that with Annie and Janine to this day. And that brought me to, I think, this time, and what we're all contending with when we think about what's the future of us, made me very curious to work for the government in some capacity. I'd never done that before. And so when the opportunity came to be Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment for the city under Mayor Aralampalam, I was really excited to sort of step into the role. It hadn't been filled in 10 years. My predecessor, Christina Newman Scott, another iconic woman in the arts field, was the last to take the position. And so it's been really exciting to sort of support the sector in really infrastructural ways. When we think about housing, when we think about jobs and what we can offer as a government to sort of grease the wheels of new industry, but then also in very specific ways like programming. We released an album at the holiday season called Hartford Unwrapped, where we were directly paying artists to work, but also using it as an opportunity to platform artists in a different way. We were just at Sundance last week promoting film industry here in Hartford, in Connecticut, and we're excited to see Wesleyan students and University of Hartford students and established filmmakers who make their home in Connecticut. We had Moby's representatives there because Moby, the musician, lives in Connecticut and is very proud of living in Connecticut and looking for ways to intersect and work with us. We had Soledad O'Brien, the CNN reporter, who is working with one of our filmmakers, TJ Noel Sullivan. And so for me, it's about amplifying, it's about finding ways to collaborate with other people and to coordinate those efforts so that we can make a better Hartford and a better Connecticut and a better world.
We have many performers that watch the program, and I always ask this of my theater people, TV people, you name it. And you mentioned you being an actor. Did you think that you were going to be an actor throughout your life had things not changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was a dance girly. I did competitions and tap dance and lyrical and all of that. So musicals were really always in my purview. And I came to acting because I had a teacher who was like, you're a great singer and you're a great dancer, but you can really work on your acting. And going to Purchase really made me fall in love with the craft of acting. But no, did I think that my artistic and professional journey would have gone in this way? Not so much. It was sort of a perfect storm of practicality and passion.
And you had mentioned, and I've had Theater Works and the other theater that you had mentioned on as guests. How was it to work in a theater environment?
Oh, I mean, it's my home. I have been in theater since I was 4 years old, whether it was on, dancing or otherwise. And so that is an environment I know. I think I probably make people crazy because I use theater as a metaphor for life all the time. Whether it's, understanding that it takes a long time to develop work, right? Like, a show gets to the Bushnell after many, many years, often a decade of work. And so it's not a microwavable activity. And so I use that metaphor a lot. But yeah, theater's my home. It's a place I know how to work the most instinctually.
Now, people will find it very interesting that the city of Hartford has an Office of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment. How did that come to be an office in the city of Hartford to begin with?
Yeah, so like I said, over a decade ago, there was an office called MECA, which stood for Marketing, Events, and Cultural Affairs. Under this mayor, Mayor Aralampalam, it was his genius, really, to split those offices in half. So my counterpart, Shannon Frost, she runs the special events and the marketing side. And then cultural affairs is my bag. And I think it's a really smart move because, as you know, arts, culture, and entertainment is all-encompassing. It's really comprehensive. And it allows us to sort of think of art in the high-minded way, but also entertainment in the way that it just sort of fills our time, right? And allows us to rest our brains and our hearts and our spirits when we need to. But culture really is the way that we're moved, right? It's the story of us that extends beyond this time. And I always say when the aliens come to find us, it will be the culture, the remains of culture that tells the story of us. And so I'm so proud to lead this office and really excited to be under, a mayor who understands the gravity and weight of just that work.
Okay, let's hold that thought and take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We are going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. My conversation continues on with Tanisha Duggan. And Tanisha, what are your responsibilities there as director?
So they're really of my making because the office is so new. For me, again, like I said, it's a lot about the infrastructure for artists. How do we make Hartford a place that is easy for creatives to live? Because until you take care of that, it's really hard to think about the making. And so I work a lot with the Department of Development Services, thinking about housing, thinking about jobs, thinking about entrepreneurial businesses. I work in collaboration with many city offices as we sort of consider those things. So at the moment, those are my primary concerns: is where do people live? How do they find sustainable jobs? How do we make it so that living as a creative in Hartford is a sustainable thing? And then inside of that, I have some other programs that I work on. So one of the first things I did when I got to my office is I worked with Andre Rochester, who's a visual artist. He's running a delegation of visual artists to the Harlem Fine Arts Show, because again, my work is about amplifying the work of artists. And so I wanted to be able to get really incredible artists out into the world to be seen, and so that they can have the experience both of learning about other people in their industry, but also bringing that knowledge back home. We did another delegation for film to the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival that we look to do again this year. We are flirting with some other delegations, but also artist residencies where we pair international artists with folks in Hartford. So that delegation piece is really important. We obviously support artists and their programs and activities. We did a series of support for the holiday season, supporting Hip Hop for the Homeless and their holiday activities, Nutcracker Sweet and Spicy and their holiday activities. We were a part of the tree lighting ceremony and sort of reinventing what Hartford holiday activities look like. Worked in collaboration with the Metro Hartford Alliance on their Hartford for the Holidays campaign. So there's a lot of tentacles to the office, but it starts with really creating a sustainable life for creatives in Hartford and then growing from there.
I think the viewing audience would also be interested to hear, you're talking about the city of Hartford, which is the subject that we're talking about, but what about other towns throughout the state of Connecticut? Is anybody following your lead?
I will definitely say that there are folks that are following my lead. I have been working closely with Sean McAllister, the newly announced Director of Arts, Culture, and Tourism in New Haven, and we both are doing our part to sort of connect with as many folks in similar positions, whether they're directly working with municipalities or the arts councils, because we believe that we are all better together. But I also, like I said, I went to the academy. I lived in Middletown. I truly believe in Hartford as the state capital, and that is our, collective city as a state. And so for me, working in Hartford and working for the city, the capital city, means that we wrap our arms around the entire state. And I think when we rise, rising tides raise all boats, as they say. And so I am as curious about working with every 169 town as I am about, specific work in Hartford, because I think we need each other. We need each other for all of the reasons, but we need each other to raise capital, we need each other to raise spirits, and we need each other to imagine and envision what's next for all of us.
I think another question that I'm thinking about is the calendar of events for the next year, 2, 3, 5 years. Do you have a mission? Do you have things you want to accomplish?
Yes. I mean, like I said, my biggest plan is to create opportunity for creatives to live sustainably in Hartford. So that is sort of top of my mind in terms of the work that I want to do. But I think in terms of programs, which I think is the thing that people often think of when they think of an arts and culture office, we're curious to bring back the movie nights that the Mecca office once had. Obviously, our country is turning 250 years old, and so we're very excited about the activities that are planned around that event. Connecticut is the Constitution state, and Hartford is the capital, and our culture institutions are doing incredible work programming very exciting things for the state and the heritage tourist in the region and the country. And so obviously America 250 is top of mind, but also using these opportunities that we're celebrating or reflecting to create containers for future festivals, activities, activations that last beyond one moment. I think that the thing that culture can do, even though we live, like I said, in a sort of microwave moment where we're like, how quickly can we get information, is one thing. But I think we're starting to see podcasts that go on for 2 hours, because I think people are starting to understand that there's something about time and about cooking something, truly, as opposed to heating it up. And so that, I'm sort of, to your point, looking beyond programs in the next year and really looking at the next 5 years, 10 years beyond. What are the seeds that we can set for a more inclusive culture? But I mean that in the capital I way, not in the way that I think we immediately think about and get tight about, but really, how do we all want to live moving forward, and what are the programs that allow us to do that?
Now, this show is geared towards the shoreline of the state of Connecticut, but it's seen all over the state. What about an individual that would like to get involved with your department? How would somebody be able to reach out to be able to get that housing or to be able to participate in any of your programs?
Yes, so artsandculture@hartford.gov is the email to reach me at. And we are always reading those emails and responding. So please, you can also find us on Instagram at artsculture.hartford. That is another place to sort of check in on us, but also to reach out and connect. But I always say, come and visit Hartford, right? Like, we're not a very big state. Come and visit us. We are open. And I also, like I said, I live in Middletown, although I represent the city of Hartford in my work. But I am always looking for friends in Mystic, in New London, in Greenwich, in Litchfield County, in Danbury, in Waterbury. It's really important to me that I find friends and collaborators across the state, because that's how we all get better.
How about your future? What are you going to try to accomplish as you move forward in the next year or 2 or 3 years? What are some things that you want to accomplish in your office?
Yeah. So, like I said, I am looking to open a couple of creative businesses, which to me is both an indicator that our municipalities can think innovatively about how we bring creatives into our processes. And so I'm looking forward to being able to announce two new creative businesses that will be opening in Hartford. I'm excited by that. I hope that we can move forward on some conversations around housing and affordability for creatives in Hartford, but I hope that it becomes a model for others. And then there are some, partnerships. Again, like I said, working with T.J. Noel Sullivan on film and supporting his Hartford Film Company and the dreams of that. And growing Hartford and Connecticut as a place for television and film. I think there's real opportunity for growth for our artists and our creatives, but also economic stimulation that I think we all know we need. Yeah, and so I just hope to continue to find myself in ways where I can push that forward. And I know it sounds Pollyanna, but to dream about what's next for us. That is really my hope for myself in the next 1, 5, 10 years is to keep finding myself in positions where we can plot a future for all of us.
And I think that people will also be interested to know that Connecticut is a film and television state. I mean, there is work that happens here that people may not be aware of that happens throughout the state. How is that industry doing in general or in the future that you see?
I was really heartened to go to Sundance and really was overwhelmed by the response to people at our cocktail event and how many people love to shoot in Connecticut, how many people love to live in Connecticut as a place, as a home base to do their work in TV and film. So I think there's a lot of energy around our state, both as a beautiful place to live as an artist, but as a location. And I think that, the folks at the Connecticut Office of Film, TV, and Digital Media are incredible folks, and I'm excited about our future collaboration and what we can build.
And you've mentioned housing more than once. Are there individuals in the city of Hartford that apply as a creative artist that are able to live in housing that you oversee? Would that be correct?
So right now, the only artist housing that we have in the city is Art Space, and that came online in the late, and I want to say the mid 90s, right? And so we haven't had since then a building dedicated to artists or creatives in that way. And so, it is a very early idea, but it's something that I'm advocating for very deeply. And I'm very much interested in the input of creatives around the state to sort of guide us on what might make the most sense. What do people need? We know there's a lot of interest in the housing community for micro apartments. As a person with 2 young children, I can't imagine living in a micro apartment. So what does the stock need to look like for you to want to live in our city? Do you want to grow? I often talk about the housing around the New Deal, right? And they would build up these developments that had studios to 3 or 4 bedrooms, and you could grow from a single person to a married person with a family in a neighborhood. And so what does that look like for us in this current moment and looking beyond? So it is very much a work in progress, but it's something that I am very motivated to accomplish, and hope that it can be a model for obviously Hartford, but for Connecticut and a larger story.
And we are just about out of time. Any closing thoughts for the viewer before we say goodbye?
I think we learned a lot during the pandemic when it came to leisure, right? To read books, to see plays, to watch movies, to indulge in your favorite television shows. I think now more than ever, calling yourself to the things that entertain, uplift, make you sad, make you feel, is really important. Yes, I'm talking about very structural things because I think that those baseline things need to be taken care of before we can think about anything else. But audiences and folks responding to art and making art, whether you think of yourself as a hobbyist or a professional. We need to know how people are feeling in this moment. And so that is my final word, to encourage folks to make and consume art as much as they can.
Well, Tanisha, I want to thank you so very much for being here. It's been a pleasure, and I'm thrilled that your office does exist.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I really hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.